We're rolling with the Streamlabs, baby. It takes so little time to edit these videos when we make them on Streamlabs, which is a godsend for me because we're going to be making videos all day today. I don't know if you had noticed, but it's the draft. And when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, we have a bunch of stuff to go over in regards to their team. Here is what Thomas Drance and Rick Dhaliwal are hearing about the Canucks' extension talks, trade efforts, and draft plans as NHL Draft Day arrives. We are going to leave a link in the description to this article, which is so very conveniently thumbnailed with a picture of Conor Garland and Thatcher Demko. Yeah, the link's going to be in the description, but The Athletic is paid for material, so big shout out over to Canucks News Summaries, who went out there and summarized this same article. This Twitter account is not behind a paywall, but a lot of the conversation points are brought up here, so if you want to get the full scoop, the entire analysis, the whole deep dive, the entire shebang, it's going to be in the description on The Athletic if you have The Athletic subscription. But Canucks News Summaries has our back with the summary. Let's start about the Vancouver Canucks and finding forwards. Take a look at this. Vancouver is casting a wide net to upgrade their forward group. They did have conversations with the Buffalo Sabres about J.J. Peterka. They're also in the mix for Marco Rossi, and they're expected to remain so if Rossi shakes loose. Vancouver also does not view Rossi's size as a concern. Now that was always going to be a point of contention for NHL teams, and of course the Minnesota Wild when it came to talking about Marco Rossi. The fact that he's 5'9", 192 is a concern in the eyes of some NHL teams. I feel like the fact that the NHL was always so focused on big guys, then things took a little bit of a turn where a bunch of teams were drafting smaller players. Then things are starting to shift a little bit because now we're starting to see teams place a bigger emphasis on size one more time. And Marco Rossi might be the center front of those conversations because teams are thinking he's too small, even though he posted up 60 points this most recent season. Now you can say that Rossi was in a spot to succeed because there were so many injuries to the Wild. He was forced to produce, he was forced to play, and he wants to get paid like so. But we'll wait and see whether or not Vancouver is able to shake loose the Austrian center from Minnesota. Speaking about the draft, this is what... Oh, there we go. A subscription. Joanne Richer. Thank you so much for your subscription. I really appreciate that. Streamlabs hitting us up with the sub notifications. The draft. This is what Dhaliwal and Drance write about. Vancouver's preference is to trade the 15th overall pick, but they are prepared to use it. Braden Coots and Cole Reshny are on their radar. Coots is a player the Canucks rate higher than other teams. There are also some defenders that Vancouver would consider at number 15 as well, would find it difficult to pass up on Kashaw Aitchison. I have no idea about these players. I'm not going to lie. We'll do research about them later when they get drafted, but for now, I'm just saying, yeah, we'll leave the draft scouting stuff to the scouting gurus. Let's talk about Conor Garland. Vancouver will likely get his extension done shortly after he's eligible to sign, so July 1st. Drance and Dolly have heard that Garland's extension is 6 years, $6 million. Team sources, though, are not willing to confirm, and it may be around $6 million. He was available for years, but is now viewed as a dependable, high-effort building block. Hell yeah, baby. Look at Conor Garland, reforming himself as an NHL talent from, I believe he was an undrafted player who got drafted a year after. That doesn't make any sense. He was not drafted in his first year of draft eligibility to becoming a stud in the QMJHL to working his way up, finding a home in the National Hockey League under Rick Tocchet with the Coyotes. Yeah, there you go. So he was born in 1996 March, so he would have been eligible for 2014. He was passed over in the draft once. Then he became a 50-point guy with Vancouver, and was consistently that too. $6 million a year, I think, is very reasonable for Garland, even though a lot of people have issue with the term. I mean, Garland is 29 right now. Signing him till he's 34, 35 doesn't seem ideal, but if it keeps that AAV low, the Vancouver Canucks are in a win-now situation, so I think it makes sense. Thatcher Demko. His extension may not be done right on July 1st, but talks are trending towards an extension being done sooner. Soother? Rather than later. The Canucks view him as a top 3 goalie in the NHL, and honestly, I think he's a guaranteed top 5 when he's healthy. He can be a top 3 if he goes on a good run. Vancouver viewing him like this is not out to lunch. I think it's very reasonable here. There also is a conversation about Arturs Silovs towards the end, because his name is suddenly on the trade block. Vancouver seems to be planning an AHL duo of Nikita Tolopilo and Ty Young. So Lankinen and Demko in the NHL, Tolopilo and Young in the AHL, and Arturs Silovs stuck in purgatory. Either he gets waived or he gets traded. Now, let's dive into the second of Vancouver Canucks-related summaries on this post. Suter and Besser. Take a look at this here. Both are expected to become UFAs. The door is open a little bit for P.S. Suter to return. Besser's preference was to remain in Vancouver, but we'll see what other offers are available for him. Suter and the Canucks both know what the other side is looking for. I honestly don't understand why Suter and Besser keep on getting brought up, but it is brought up here. I mean, I don't think they're going to be coming back, so we will wait and see on that front. Sammy Blais, an impact player with the Abbotsford Canucks in their run. The Canucks have had early contract talks with him, and they're strongly considering giving him an NHL deal. They also asked Blais to make a serious commitment to conditioning. That cost him at training camp last season. So, Blais, he is a lot more of that physical guy. You know, we just talked about how the NHL is trending more towards players that can hit, that are bigger, that are physical. Blais 6'2", 205, and the guy body checks like a maniac. He also produced 19 points in 23 games with the Abbotsford Canucks in the playoffs, on top of getting 77 penalty minutes. This guy had a 20-point year with St. Louis in 31 games played in 22-23 upon being traded over there from New York. That was a total anomaly-type year for Sammy Blais. But because he displayed some very good offensive numbers in the AHL this year, I do kind of wonder if the Canucks decide to go NHL with him next season. And then finally, there's a note on Mikael Granlund. This is a name to watch for the Canucks if they don't have a number 2 center by July 1st. However, Vancouver would need to create the cap space to sign him. One of the replies on the tweet here made by Canucks News Summaries goes over the sea of Granlunds, and of course, that is really, really funny. I mean, this is a big reference to some older Granlund lore with the Vancouver Canucks back in the days when Marcus Granlund was in Vancouver, and he wasn't really all too great. And there were a bunch of other guys in the Canucks forward core that weren't all too great. The sea of Granlunds, the sea of mediocrity in Vancouver. Mikael Granlund is a lot better than Marcus Granlund, though. So that, of course, is there. Finally, there's another post here. We're going to speed right through this one. Michael Carconi and Nick Bjugstad are on the Canucks' radar. The Canucks did not express any interest in Cody Glass. The Canucks also remain in pursuit for Bowen Byram, and they're placing a premium on getting players that want to be in Vancouver. Just like Evander Kane. Canucks trade candidates. Hearing that Bluger and Joshua could be available if the Canucks need to create cap space. Joshua was also dealing with a hip injury in the second half of the season, which would explain a lot. I know the guy had cancer recently, but a hip injury also was holding him back. I think Dakota Joshua wasn't really his best this most previous year. You can't really blame him, but at the same time, he did get signed to a pretty beefy deal last summer, so I think there is a lot of room here for Vancouver to maybe make some upgrades, especially if you think of Sammy Blais as a Joshua replacement, maybe not with the high-flying offense like he had displayed in 23-24, but with the physicality. Now here, Noah Juulsen update. This is where things get spicy. He wants a one-way contract, but it seems like he'll sign elsewhere. The Canucks believe Willander and Elias Pettersson have a shot of making the team out of training camp, which makes Noah Juulsen's job expendable. So with all that in mind, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Conor Garland, about Sammy Blais, Mikael Granlund, Bowen Byram, and all these other Vancouver Canucks news and notes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Arturs Silovs, and bye.